Good morning, everybody. Welcome. It's good to have you here. My name is Katie. Some of you have met me before. I am the naturalist for the Pember. And today we have special guest Lucas Combs of the Reptile Haven Wildlife Center with us. Lucas went to college for zoology at the Santa Fe College Teaching Zoo in Gainesville, Florida. Right now, Lucas is working toward his biology degree at the University of Albany. Starting this month, Lucas will be working with North Country Wildlife Rehab to care for native injured reptiles and amphibians. For the past 20 years, Lucas has kept and bred reptiles, and he, his wife Carrie, and their two kids, Brenna and Keita, plan to open a reptile zoo and rehabilitation center in upstate New York in the coming years. Please join me in welcoming Lucas from the Reptile Haven Wildlife Center.
All right, so today we're going to start with a couple of lizards from Australia. So our smallest one we have first, this is a Rankin's dragon, this little guy right here. They are the smaller cousin to the bearded dragon, which we'll have in a second. These guys, this right here is a full-grown male compared to this, which is a full-grown male bearded dragon. These Rankin's dragons get about 8 to 12 inches, where their cousins, the bearded dragon, can get up to 2 feet long. The Rankins can live for about 6 to 10 years. These guys can live for up to 15 years. They live in the desert outbacks of Australia. They'll eat any kind of greens, succulents, which are like cactuses and stuff like that. And they'll eat any kind of insects and even small rodents that they come across. So I've been keeping these beard dragons. I've kept them my entire 20 years. I've had probably hundreds of babies of beard dragons over the years. In the last couple of years, I've been starting to breed these guys right here, the Rankins. Probably only one of maybe a dozen people in the country that keep Rankin's dragons. As no animals can be exported from Australia for a long time now, so all these guys and their lineage have all been captive bred. Let's see how this next guy does. This is an Australian water dragon, a little bit more skittish than the other guys. He is still just a baby. He's only about 1.5 years old right now. These guys, full grown, will be almost 3 feet. They live in the forested areas of Australia, near rivers mostly. These guys, when they're threatened, will dive into the water and can stay underwater for up to half an hour without having to come up for a breath. They'll eat mainly insects and occasional small rodents they'll grab. Very occasionally, not as often as the beardies and the Rankins, but they will eat some vegetation and fruits as well. Yeah, he's not used to being held as the other guys are yet. He's still young, but we're working on him. He's gotten a lot better than when we first got him. Yeah, you always, whenever any kind of, lizards aren't as bad because snakes have called keeled snakes, so they're going in one direction. You don't want to pet them in the opposite direction because it's rough against them. These guys aren't really as bad. Their scales aren't necessarily in one direction. Some of them are. Some certain scales on them are, but for the most part, it doesn't matter which direction that you rub them. Yes.
How long do dragons live?
These guys, about as long as the bearded dragon, so about 15 years is their lifespan. Yes.
Is this one a male or female?
This one is supposed to be a girl. It's hard to tell when they're young, but I bought her. She's supposed to be a girl. The males, when they start to get older, on their belly and their chin right here is a bright red. Usually how you can tell the males from the females. The males will also have a larger head than the females do as well. So this one should be a female. Where both of these guys, the bearded dragons are one of the easier ones to tell if it's a male or female. Males have a really, really wide head, and they also, this beard on the bottom right here is why they're called bearded dragons. They'll puff it out and it turns jet black. Usually when they're either trying to find a female or they're have another male in the area and they're trying to act tough and big around, they'll puff out this beard to about twice the size and turns jet black. That's why they're called bearded dragons. Alright. So we got a couple smaller ones next. We have a leopard gecko. These guys are from the Middle East, from Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq. Yes.
So one time I saw a leopard gecko at my brother's birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I noticed about it is that it has spots all over its back, which I think is why it's called a leopard.
It is. That is why they're called leopard gecko. Although you have a lot of now you can see lots of them that have lots and lots of different colors. But this is their natural color. They're a yellow and purplish color with big brown spots all over them. These guys can actually live for up to 25 plus years. They have this big fat tail. This is where they keep their fat reserves. They can drop that tail though. If they're being chased by a predator, they will drop that big tail and they will normally regrow it. Not all lizards can regrow their tails, but these guys can. These guys are strictly insectivores, meaning they're going to eat crickets, roaches, mealworms. They will take the occasional small rodents, pinky mice. This is a full-grown adult male right here, so they're not going to get much bigger than about 8 to 12 inches would be a really, really big one. For the most part, they're very pretty calm animal, fairly common. And then you have this one who's a little bit more jumpy. This is a crested gecko. These guys come from New Caledonia, which is an island off of Australia. As you can see, he lost his tail. A lot of crested geckos lose their tails. They've actually, in the wild, have never found a crested gecko that has a tail on it because they drop them so often. And this is one lizard that cannot regrow their tail. So once their tail is gone, it's gone forever. But when they do have a tail, it's a prehensile tail. So they'll use it to grab onto the trees that they live in New Caledonia. These guys' main diet is fruit. They'll eat nectars and rotten fruit that's fallen to the ground. That's mainly what they eat. They will eat occasional insects, but they are mainly a rotten fruit eating gecko. And they are called the crested gecko because if you get a look at them, they have ridges right along the top of their head. So that's how they get their name. Crested gecko, they're also known as the eyelash gecko because if you look at them closely, they have little eyelashes, ridges above their eyeballs. And these guys, the leopard geckos, are one of the only geckos that actually have eyelids. Most geckos, like these guys right here, don't have eyelids. They can't close their eyes. So in order to clean the eyes, they will lick their eyeballs. You'll see them, they'll stick their tongue out and lick their eyeballs because they can't close them to clean them. Yep, they lick their eyeballs.
So they don't have a nictitating membrane?
They do not. Nope. Nope. The only way to get the dirt and anything that's off on their eyeballs off is to lick them.
Wow.
And crested geckos and these leopard geckos are also mostly nocturnal animals, which means they do most of their activity at night, most of the hunting at night. During the majority of the day, they're napping. These guys will be napping up in a tree somewhere, where your leopard geckos will be sleeping in usually rock crevices in the deserts of the Middle East. Yes? Yes?
Do they sleep with their eyes open since they
These do, yes. These guys will see, you can't really tell when they're sleeping because they can't close their eyes. So they do sleep with their eyes open, yes. Yes.
So when you say sleep the eyes open, does that mean they can also put it as well as
They could, yeah. Okay, they can't close their eyes, so they probably never fully go to sleep because they can always see. They just kind of rest. Yep.
Ate it.
Yep, and these guys also, which is how a lot of arboreal geckos, meaning geckos that live up in the trees, if you look at their fingers and you feel their toe pads, they have sticky toe pads. They can actually climb straight up a glass wall. Their toe pads have these hairs on them that allow them to climb up a sheer ledge like glass. They'll climb up straight up a piece of glass and will actually stick to it. Yes.
When they drop their tails, do you throw them away or save them?
Their tails, they just get thrown away when they're done. A lot of times, like in the wild, they would throw their tail because they're getting chased by a predator, so that the predator goes and eats the tail and can have a snack, and the gecko can get away. Which the most geckos can drop their tails for that very reason, so that their tail will actually still be twitching while they're running away, so that whatever's chasing them will stop and eat their tail while the gecko can get away, and most of the time they'll grow them back. Except for the crested geckos, one of the only animals that can't grow them back. And up until the mid-90s, they actually thought crested geckos were extinct. They hadn't seen one in decades. They were just rediscovered in the 90s and now are one of the most popular captive bred animals. He's actually licking his eyeballs right now. He was just licking his eyes. One of the most popular pet geckos in the world, in the country right now. And just 25, 30 years ago, they were thought to be extinct. Alright, we got a couple of turtles next. Alright. So these two guys, yes.
I'm guessing one of them is a painted turtle.
Yes, but not the painted turtle you're used to seeing around here. This guy right here is a southern painted turtle. So it is a cousin, it's a relative to the painted turtle, eastern painted turtle that we would see around here. But these guys live down in southern United States. So North Carolina, Georgia, Florida is where you'll find these guys. This is a yellow-bellied slider, also mostly in the east and southeast sections of the United States. These guys can live for 20 to 30 plus years. They are both full grown right now. They are two females. If you look at most turtles and sliders like this, their front claws, males will have really, really long front claws. Females have very short claws, and the tails, the females has a small tail. Males have a much longer, about a 2 to 3 inch tail, and it's a lot thicker in diameter as well. These guys eat, as babies, they'll eat a lot of fish and crayfish, snails, a lot of meat. As they get older, they tend to be a little bit more on the vegetarian or herbivore side. So they'll eat a lot of plant material. The duckweed you see floating on top of the pond, these guys love to eat. They'll eat grasses. And also turtles, interesting thing about them is they cannot eat unless they're in the water. They can grab food on land, but in order to actually swallow their food, they have to go in and under the water to eat their food. They can't swallow anything when they're on land, out of the water. Yes. What? I can't hear you. I'm sorry. A little bit louder. Yes, these guys lick their eyes. Yes.
I touched the snapping turtle on Thursday.
You touched a snapping turtle. Uh-oh. Around here, you gotta be really careful. I do have a small snapping turtle we'll see in a minute. The snapping turtles around here, you have to be very careful. Snapping turtles around here can reach over halfway behind their shell to bite you. Their shell, their neck, yeah. If you're holding a snapping turtle, if you were holding them right here, a snapping turtle around here could reach around and bite you. Their necks are very, very long. Yes. Alright. This next one is another Australian animal. Oh, yes.
That turtle down there is not like trying to get out.
Yes, they don't like being in little cages. Yes.
You're pointing at me.
Yes.
Are they breathing?
What?
Unlike the things
None of these are airtight. Okay, so there's breathing spot in all these. Yes. Yes. What? Why are they wet? Because they just came out of a pond this morning. They live in the water. So all these guys live in a big stock pond I have at home. So that's why they're all wet. This is an African side-neck turtle from Australia. They have a very, very long neck. They are closely related to snapping turtles. As you can see, they have a very long neck, a lot longer than those other two turtles that we saw. Also, most turtles you see have completely webbed feet, which are aquatic animals. They're made for swimming on. These guys also mainly eat fish and crustaceans, like crayfish and clams and snails. Obviously, they get their name from this bright pink belly that they have right here. This is a full-grown female. They don't get a whole lot larger than this. She is about 10 years old right now. And these guys can also live for between 20 to 30 years on average. Yes.
Why does all turtles live in water?
Most turtles do live in water. That's just where they live. There are some box turtles that live on land. We have around here. You would have wood turtles, which they do live in and near water, but they come out on land a lot more often. There's eastern box turtles that mostly live on land, but most turtles do live in the water. Yes. He's trying to. Yeah, she is trying to swim away. Yes. That turtle is trying to escape. Yes. None of them like being little boxes. Alright. We'll let this guy out. This is our largest turtle that we have right now. This is a southern river cooter. This one is about 15 years old right now. Most of these guys, they can live up to 30 years. This is by far definitely the largest turtle that we have right now. It is a male. As you can see, those front claws are very, very long. That's how you can tell it's a male. They also have a very large tail in the back, just like the other sliders. These guys do eat a lot of vegetation. They like their duckweed, they like their floating plants, but they will definitely snack on some fish and crayfish and snails that we usually keep in their enclosures. What was that?
What type of turtle is it?
It's called a southern river cooter. So they live in a lot of streams and waterways in southern United States. Yes.
I thought before you said it's like name, I thought it was
Yeah. So our last turtle he's still a baby right now. I've had it, he's about 3 or 4 years old. Now this is an alligator snapping turtle. They can get much larger than the snapping turtles we have up here. Full grown, these guys can get close to 200 pounds and about a 2 to 3 foot shell length. Unlike the snapping turtles that we have around here, this guy, even though they get a lot bigger, they're less dangerous because they don't have as long as the neck. You can get right up on their back, touch the top of their head. Where if we had a snapping turtle around here and I was holding him like this, he would be able to bite my fingers very easily. These guys cannot, but they do get much, much larger. As you can see, that big mouth he's opening up. If you get anything anywhere near around that mouth, he will clamp down on it. And they have a very, very powerful jaw. Full grown, these guys could easily take fingers off. And if you look closely at him, he has a little, you can see his tongue down in there. It's a little pink wiggling thing. That is what they use for a lure. They'll just sit on the bottom of rivers, leave their mouth open like that, and the fish swimming by see that little pink wiggling thing. They think it's a worm. They come down and try to eat it, and he takes a snap at them and gets a meal. So that's how he gets his food. He doesn't chase anyone. He just sits on the bottom of the water with his mouth open and waits for a fish to swim into his mouth so he can eat it.
How long will you nipple check?
These guys, they don't know for sure, but they've estimated they can live for over 100 years.
What about the snapping turtles like around here?
Snapping turtles around here, average lifespan is probably about 50 years. But they haven't had enough study on these guys. They know they can live at least 50 or 60 years, but they theorize they can live for well over 100 years full grown. Yes. These guys can get up to 200 pounds with a shell length of up to 2 to 3 feet long. Their heads close to the size of a bowling ball for their heads. So they can easily fit your hands inside their mouths. Yes.
Why is it moving like it's made of stone?
They don't move a whole lot. They're very rigid. For the most part, they like to move as little and naturally as possible. They don't want they're sitting on the bottom of the water. They don't want the animal swimming by to know it's an animal. So they try not to move very much. He's moving a lot more right now because I'm holding him and touching him, which he does not like very much. Yes. His mouth is open because he wants to bite me. He doesn't like me holding him. He doesn't like to be held very much, so he wants to bite something. If you put anything in or near his mouth, he would clamp down on it very hard. And if you put your finger in it, it would hurt a lot. He could probably snap a small carrot in half right now. Yes. Yes, they all want to get out. Yes.
Have you ever gotten bit by your own turtles?
I have gotten bit, but not by one of these turtles. I have gotten bitten by some of my smaller turtles, just reaching into their tank, feeding them, trying to clean out their ponds. Every once in a while, one will come over and take a little bite at you. It doesn't hurt too much. They're either trying to get food or they're trying to tell you to get away from my territory. Alright. Lastly, we have our biggest lizard with us today.
The huge turtles.
This guy is from South America. This is Peggy. She is an Argentine red tegu from Argentina and South America. Main diet for the she is about full grown right now. I've had her for about 8 or 9 years. She is a female. If you see males have a much larger head and these big jowls on the side. A male's head would probably be about twice as wide as this girl's. In the wild, these guys are eating a lot of fruit that's fallen to the ground. They also like to eat, as babies, they'll eat a lot of insects. As they get older, she likes her mice. She will eat a lot of different kinds of ground meat. They'll like to eat eggs. These guys, lifespan is about 10 to 12 years on average. She likes her cuddles. But she's very large, but they're very docile animals. And these guys, just like snakes, if you see her tongue when she's sticking it out, it's actually forked at the end. So just like snakes, when they stick out their tongue, they grab the scent particles and they bring it into the mouth. And on the roof of their mouth, they have something called a Jacobson's organ, which is how they smell. So they taste the air and they smell it. Yes. They do not eat people. Yes. Yeah, they do. Do you have any other questions about these guys? Yes.
Do you
But that's adorable. Oh, look at
I don't let. I'll let them out while I'm up. I don't let any of my animals free roam around the house. More for their safety. They can get into a lot of stuff they don't want to. That's not good for them. But she is in a 4-foot enclosure. She stays in at home. She is getting a much larger home built very soon. We're working on probably 8-foot enclosure for her. She gets several inches of like a bark substrate. These guys are from the rainforest in South America, so they like it nice and humid. So we give them several inches of substrate, usually a mixture of bark and organic potting soil without any additives into it, so that she can dig and burrow. They don't do a whole lot of climbing, but we'll give them a couple branches in there for her to climb on, and heat lamp. And for most of these guys, UV light is the most important thing, which is the light that we're getting from the sun. These guys, if they don't get their natural sunlight, they actually can't maintain their bones, especially the dragons over here. If they don't get sunlight, because the food they eat doesn't have any calcium in it, so they absorb and make their own calcium from the vitamin D they get from natural sun rays. Tegus, it is controversial whether they need UV or not. We always be given to her, but they eat whole prey items like mice that have bones, so they do get calcium from bones. But she gets a nice large water dish in her enclosure. She does like to go in. Occasionally we'll let her go and swim in the turtle pond a little bit. She likes to swim, she likes the water. We have a nice big outdoor pen that we have some of our tortoises in that we let her roam around in during the summer for a little bit. Do you have any other questions about anyone else up here? Yes.
It's cute. I'm gonna touch on that.
Why is a lizard so big and not in the female colony?
This girl, they just different lizards. They get different sizes. Depends on which lizards you get. We do have some very small lizards.
You think that's cool?
This just happens to be a very large lizard that lives in South America.
Tiny, bigger.
Have any other questions? Oh, there's people behind here too.
He's so cute. Yeah, I love the
Yes.
Like for your, like in the morning, when you're going through all of these, because I can imagine you probably have more, like what is it, how early do you have, like how long does it take?
To care for everyone, I've got right at home right now. I think our last count was about 80 animals that we have. Most of them reptiles are fairly easy to care for. It takes maybe about an hour a day. Going through just changing water dishes, because most of these lizards will climb in and go to the bathroom with their water dishes, so we clean out water dishes, spot clean their enclosures. For feeding, like this girl here, she only eats about twice a week. She'll eat fairly large meals. She'll get usually 1 or 2 mice a week, and then we give her some high quality canned cat food or ground turkey and eggs. Dragons get greens, lettuce every day, and then about 2 to 3 times a week they'll get their insects. Turtles just kind of you keep out clean out their filter once in a while. There's not a whole lot to do with turtles besides throw some food in once a day.
Because his friend.
Yes.
He's from the.
She was, yeah. She's starting to calm down a little bit now. She's nervous. She's not used to seeing this many people. Yes. I don't have any snakes today, no. Unfortunately. Yes.
give it to me over
Why
here.
is its tongue so long?
Their tongue is that long, so they can stick it out like that, so they can smell the air, like she's doing right now. So that she's trying to figure out what's going on, trying to figure out if any of you guys are a threat to her. She's trying to figure out her environment. Yes.
Kind of. Yeah. Well, he used to, so.
It doesn't help. The longer tongue doesn't help with smells. They just help them. They stick their tongue out like that. Most lizards do have longer tongues. You just don't see them because they're in their mouths. Yes.
Oh, that one right over there. Or like behind in the one
Or
of
what?
the big handles. Not that, like the lizard.
The snake. What are they?
Sleeps with his eyes open. This one has eyelids.
Oh yes, they are. They stick out their tongue just like snakes. Yes. Then they also have that forked tongue like snakes do too. Most lizards do not have a forked tongue. They have a tongue just like we do that's round. But tegus and monitors have forked tongues so that they can smell the air. They don't smell through their nose like we do. They smell with their tongue.
Question for that.
Yes. These guys, I try to get and hold them at least once a week. Some of these guys, the geckos don't get held as often because they don't really like being held. This girl tends to tolerate being held a lot more than some of our other animals. Our bearded dragons, they could get held all the time. The bearded dragons will just come out and sit on her shoulder or walking around for most of the day. Turtles don't get taken out that much. They're swimming in the pond. They like to come out of the water if they don't have to. Any other questions?
Turtle. He lifted up the key.
Yeah. Yeah, she's trying to open up the enclosure to get it out.
She got one side, she's going to the other side now. Dragon.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah, these guys, the bearded dragons, they like to come out. One animal that actually that seems to like being held are these guys. Whenever you walk by their cages, they try to climb out, and they love to come out and they'll come out and sit on your shoulder. One of the only animals that we have here that actually seems to enjoy being held.
Question over there.
Yes. What? How do I hold two at a time? Just like this. You just want to make sure that they don't go near each other because they probably won't like each other. Yes. This one, I haven't weighed her in a while, but she's probably about 10 or 15 pounds.
Oh, wow. That's a good size.
Any other questions for anyone? In a little bit, if you want, we can do what's called a 2-finger touch. So you come over and touch them with 2 fingers.
Got a question out there. Punto pretender de nossa sorte.
I've always, I always loved animals in general. I don't know what it was when I was about 17 or 18. My first animals I ever got were a pair of turtles. It was a red-eared slider and a false mat turtle. And I got those right after I graduated high school, and I just always kept reptile since. I don't know what it was. I've always started with 2 turtles, then I got some bearded dragons, went into some corn snakes and king snakes, and we just got bigger and bigger. And I just, for over 20 years now, I've always had some sort of reptile in my house. We do a lot of breeding now too. So a lot of these animals are in breeding programs. We usually have a handful of babies every year. If you want to have a line, we'll come right over here and 2 fingers, and we can pet on the side. So